Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it has been a while since I've made a video, so apologies again. Gonna try and do something a little bit different, and as you can see here, I've bought myself a new toy. I got this about a month ago, and it's not the first time I've ridden a motorcycle. I used to ride from about 2008, and I did have a bit of an incident back in 2015. In February, actually. I still have the receipt. I found the receipt when I bought this bike. Around the same time as I bought this bike, I found a receipt from that day when I fell. And it was the 15th, if I recall correctly. It wasn't a serious accident. I mean, sure, I got a bit scratched up, but at that point, I decided to abstain for a while, and I never got back on for about, well, almost 3 years. Then, when my license was about to expire, I went and renewed it the day before it was going to expire, and I decided to go for a test ride, and that's where it all started again for me. And I have to say, I've been really enjoying it. I forgot how much I missed being on the bike. I don't think I do anything too crazy during this ride, which is probably a good thing because it's supposed to be relaxing. Well, I mean, the ride and the motorcycle noises are not necessarily relaxing, but this particular engine, well, it's not necessarily the engine. I've seen some relaxing videos actually, and generally the reason why they're relaxing is because they use a microphone that's external, and the wind gushes past, and the wind gushing past the microphone creates a sort of relaxing vibe. It's more like a whoosh, rather than just hearing the engine sounds. So I plan on adjusting the volume so that the engine is a bit lower, or quite a bit lower in the background. So before I decided to start recording this, I thought, what else could I talk about during this video? So I wanted to narrate a little bit about what was going on, but at the same time, I thought that could get a bit boring. So the other thing I was planning on doing was talking a little bit about some interesting things, like something that seems, excuse the language, but counterintuitive, and that is counter-steering. It's a concept that many people aren't necessarily aware of. In fact, most people that ride on a push bike, for example, most people that ride on a push bike also counter steer. They don't realise they're doing it, but I'll try and explain what counter steering is. So, in essence, counter steering is if you want to turn right on a bike, and let's say you're going at a reasonably high speed, and when I say reasonably high, I don't mean 100 kilometers per hour, I mean something like 30, let's say 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, and this includes a push bike. What you basically have to do is, to turn right, you push right on the handlebars. Sorry, you push on the right handlebar, but you push forward. Now normally you'd think that would turn you left, but at high speed what actually happens is a gyroscopic effect. So this gyroscopic effect is a physical, like a physics term. It's not something I can really explain in detail right now, but think about it like this. When the bike's moving, and you're trying to steer, you're not actually steering on a bike with the front wheel. What you're doing is you're setting up the back wheel for the turn. So in essence, by pushing right, let's say I want to turn right, so I'll push on the right handlebar and I'll push forward on the right handlebar. So now the handlebar is pointing to the left, which again, normally you'd think that would take you left. But what's happening at high speed is that the bike leans, and the back wheel wants to keep going in the direction that it's going. And so what you've done is by pushing right, you've forced the bike into a lean, because it's kind of toppling over its own weight, and then the bike leans right, and it follows, the whole bike leans right, and the back wheel is leaning right, and the back wheel continues on that path and turns right. It really messes with people's minds. In fact, right now you're thinking I'm high, but if you actually think about what you do on a push bike, and next time I suggest you try it, as you're going through a turn at high speed, think about how you're steering, and I guarantee you, you're counter steering. So you're pushing right to lean the bike, and you're going through the turn, and you've never thought about it your entire life. Your brain just does all the calculations. But let me assure you, by being aware of it, you will become a better rider. So the fade out and fade in that happened just earlier, I was dropping off some some samples. So I had some tests done recently, and everything's fine. So there's one final test I can do, but I haven't got the symptoms anymore. And until they show up again, I'm not going to do that one because it's uncomfortable. I won't go into detail, but not something I want to do right now. If I see the symptoms return, I'll definitely do it though. So yeah, just cruising to work on this particular occasion. And waiting patiently at the lights. I really love this camera setup. It's not a GoPro. A lot of people mistake it for a GoPro, but it's an equivalent. It's the camera's called an SJ cam. It's a Chinese camera, like Chinese manufactured. So let's assume they reverse engineered the GoPro. Yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of silence on this one, so apologies. I'm obviously watching along, and on this particular occasion, it seems like I've already run out of things to say. This is my local kind of area. Lately I've been riding to and from work every day. I haven't been recording every day, but I'll get into the habit of doing that again once I fix my camera. Yeah, just on that, I recently broke my camera. And when I say broke, just what happened was, I created a little modification for my for the USB port to take in power, so that I could essentially hook it up to the bike battery, and that way I could have continuous power to the camera. unfortunately, I didn't take into account the wind forces on the USB port, and what's happened is as the wind has battered the cable, I've kind of jiggled the USB port on the camera, and it essentially snapped off internally. So I've got no USB port on the camera now, and I have to do some repairs. So yeah, that's been fun. On a separate matter, I did actually order, before this happened, I already ordered a 4K variant of this camera, and they're so cheap. It's like, I'm trying to remember the exact price now, but I think it was about 150 Australian dollars, which is, it's only like, I don't know, 110 US, and that's including shipping from Hong Kong. But yeah, they're just so cheap. So I figured, why not? Now I'm just waiting for that to arrive, and then I'll hopefully have two set up. And then the intention of having two is that I kind of want to get a back angle. So I was thinking of putting the 4K on the front and the 1080p on the back. It'd give me a chance to sort of analyze driver and rider behavior as well. Could be useful, not just for myself, obviously. That's not like I'm a traffic expert or anything like that, or I don't do any analysis on traffic or crashes or anything like that, but I just think, just in general, it would be useful to have that kind of material. And it also looks cool when you're driving away from other vehicles and you've got like a back angle. So I'm riding here in the bus lane, and that's actually allowed in New South Wales. So I don't know if other parts of Australia allow that, but yeah, bus lanes are available for bikes, motorbikes to use. Taxis can also use them, if I recall correctly. So taxis, buses and motorcycles. And I moved out of the bus lane because the other lanes were empty. I use the bus lane to my advantage where I need to. Otherwise, I stay in the other lane. Generally speaking, though, the bus lane is empty, so, the only exception to the rule is that cars can actually use the bus lane, but only if they're turning. If they're making a turn, they've got 500 meters. I think it's 500 meters. Sounds like a lot. Maybe it's 50. Yeah, that's probably right. So they've got about 50 meters in which they can veer into the left, into the bus lane, and then make a turn left. But that's the only time regular cars can use the bus lane. Now, there are also other lanes called bus-only lanes in New South Wales, and in case you weren't aware, New South Wales is a state in Australia. We only have 7 states and territories. But yeah, there's another lane called a bus-only lane. A bus-only lane can only be used by buses, hence bus-only. Now, if you get caught in one of those, they're usually almost like highways for buses. So like short, not highways, but short to medium lengths of road that are strictly for buses only and are painted in the same colour. That sort of reddish road. But yeah, that's strictly for buses, and if you get caught in one of those, you'd get a pretty bad fine. One of the things I find annoying, though, is that as you approach lights in the bus lane, or sometimes when you approach lights, they've got a little slip section that's there for buses. So it's not like it's got a full lane or a dedicated lane, but they create a little slip that the buses can enter. And that section is often labelled bus only, So technically, as a bike, you can't go in there. However, as soon as you cross, there's a bus lane. So it goes from bus only, a small section of road, like 10 meters long, which is bus only, and then you go across and it's a bus lane. It seems like a massive, like, middle finger or something. It's just silly. So, like I said, I don't think I was doing anything irresponsible on this video. Lately I've been pushing myself, getting used to how I used to ride, reacquainting myself with the road and the bike, and sometimes I split lanes, which again is actually legal in New South Wales. Now there are certain parameters you have to follow. I can't just go down the middle of two lanes at high speed. The cars around me have to be moving at no greater than 30 kilometers per hour, if I recall correctly. Oh no, they have to be still, actually. Yeah, the cars have to be stationary for me to be able to lane split legally. And I can travel at no faster than 30 kilometers per hour, which is about 20 miles per hour. For those of you on Imperial, which is, I think, only the USA. But yeah, lane splitting is very handy, and contrary to popular belief, if done properly, it is actually safer. The reason why it's safer is because bikes don't take long to accelerate, and getting to the front of traffic means that you're getting away from cars. So, for example, if you're at a set of lights and you roll up to the front, and now you're in front of all the other cars, the lights turn green, you accelerate faster than everyone, and you're ahead of everyone now. So, being away from cars on a bike is a good thing. There's a lot of subtleties that you won't notice when I ride. In particular, good riders develop habits that keep them away from cars. So, I've got a friend that's very impulsive. In fact, his partner, or his girlfriend, I'm not going to say partner because that makes him sound gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But his girlfriend often says, well, actually we both say, that he's got a cat parasite. So for those of you that aren't aware, cat parasites, I can't remember what the actual name of the bacterium is, but there's not bacterium, there's a parasite that infects rats or mice, and then cats might eat those rats or mice and they become infected with this parasite, and then humans have cats as pets and they get infected with this parasite. It's estimated that about 30% of the population globally has this parasite. And what it actually does is it creates people that are, including cats. The cats are more impulsive, the humans are more impulsive. They make irrational decisions. They get angry a lot more easily than other people. I've never owned a cat, and I'm a bit hesitant to, just for that reason alone. But yeah, that's why we joke that he's got a cat parasite, because he's a bit impulsive and he rides a bit too close to other cars. Even when he drives his car, he also drives too close to the back of other cars. And I always think, the person in front, all they have to do is tap the brakes and you're going to smash into them. Whenever I ride, and there's a reasonably high speed, I do try to keep a buffer between me and the car in front. You'll also notice that so here I should be going slightly to the right to make this turn, for example. Even though I'm going at slow speed, it's always good to have these habits. When I'm in this lane, I'll try to keep to the right in case cars come in from the left side. It also creates more visibility. It's called buffering. you basically move into a position that makes it easier for other cars to see. It's also a good it's also why you should also it's a good reason why you should also stay a bit further back when there's cars nearby, so that if they look in their mirrors, they can see that you're there. I think I speed here and then I realise I'm in a 40 zone. 40 zones in Australia, New South Wales in particular, I don't know about the rest of it, but generally speaking, when you find a 40 zone, it's a school zone. So school zones effectively are set up around schools, and you shouldn't go faster than 40. And the reason why it's a problem in this particular case is there's a police station just around the corner. So you don't want to be going too fast around the popo. They've actually got it's like an administration office. Oh, that just reminded me, up this road, so if I went straight there instead of turning, there's a high school, and one of the students there committed a terrorist attack against a police officer. So I fade out because I don't want you to know where I work, but you can get the car park as well. So if someone works at my building, they're going to work this out. Excuse the use of work so many times just then, I apologise. But anyway, quickly back to that little terrorist. What he did was one afternoon, I was actually at work on this particular occasion, but one afternoon he walked down from the school, turned right to go to the other police, or to the actual police station, because there's a number of police buildings in that area. I went past one, but there was one in the opposite direction as well. So he went to the one in the opposite direction, and he just walked inside with a gun and shot a police officer. But he wasn't like an on-duty cop as far as I'm aware. He was an accountant, but he was still like in the police force. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was an accountant. Like, still a cop by training, like he would have been able to handle a gun and so on, but this kid just came in out of nowhere and shot him dead. And then that was it. Then they arrested him. I mean, it's kind of pointless. I don't know what he proved by doing that. Then they arrested his friends and associates as well. So this is me on the way home now. This is a nice area. This is George Street, Parramatta. There's a lot of, Church Street in Parramatta. There's a lot of cafes and restaurants along this strip. There never used to be. Like, this all started I'd say about 2 decades ago. It started becoming like this, where people started opening cafes and restaurants along this strip. But yeah, there's a lot of nice places to eat here. And one of the things I love about Parramatta, it's always been about the pedestrians. They've tried to set up the city in such a way that, it's accommodating to people just walking the street. And so if you notice, if the pedestrian lights turn on for people to cross, the little green man, you'll notice that they turn on in both directions so that people can cross diagonally, which I always thought was cool. And then in addition to that, they recently installed a timer so that you can see how much time you've got to cross, and it ticks down from about 20 seconds, which is really handy, like especially when you're, normally you get the flashing red man. It's like, that doesn't tell you how much time you've got, whereas this actually tells you now, you've got 20 seconds to do a dash. So yeah, they're very cool in that way. Yeah, this particular road gets annoying at times. By this road, I mean the one I'm turning left into. in the afternoon it can get a bit busy, and I kind of have to lane split. I don't know if I do it on this particular occasion. Australia Post van. Australia Post is our postal service. Do I lane split? I can't remember. I think I behaved myself here. Yeah, I was still in my behaving myself mode for the first week or so. And then I started being a bad boy. Very naughty boy. Yeah, I did something today that was a bit silly. So I've got to calm myself down a little bit and not be a bit too extreme. But yeah, I was lane splitting, and the cars were moving. Well, they started moving, and then basically put myself in a situation that I shouldn't have. But nothing happened. But I'm definitely going to be a bit more cautious next time. Only lane split when cars are stationary. See, this particular road is very, very busy at times, but it's not right now. This is nothing, what you're seeing, but normally there's traffic all the way up here. What time is it? I can't see it because I'm looking at this on my phone. Looks like it says 7:06, so that's why. Normally at about 5 o'clock. From about 4 onwards, 4 to 5, 6 o'clock. Yeah, from about 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it's really bad. I think this was on Thursday, which is interesting because Thursday night is shopping night for a lot of people. So I think what happens is they must be going home and then going straight to the shop, or doing a detour to the shop instead of going home. So, and that's a big shopping centre there, so it's probably alleviated some of the traffic. Now, if I recall correctly, if this is a Thursday, you'll see an ambulance go past. Now, interestingly, I heard the story of why that ambulance went past today from a colleague. Let's see if I'm right. I think this is the one with the ambulance. That's interesting. See the little flashing on my indicator? I think that's because they must use LEDs on these indicators, and the capture rate or the frame rate of my camera doesn't align or sync up. In fact, you see it with a lot of the traffic lights. You can see the red lights flashing right now, and that's because I suspect the LEDs operate at about 100 Hertz or 120 Hertz, which means for every second on my camera it flashes 3 or 4 times. So you can see them flash, 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 flash on the red light. And you see the same thing with the back of some of the people's cars. So when they've got their brake lights on, the same thing happens, and that's because a lot of brake lights now use LEDs. And I didn't even realise, but yeah, they're strobing. They're not actually on. It seems like they're on some kind of frequency, like a refresh rate. It's pretty interesting. It's probably so they don't burn out. That's what it is. Yeah, it's so they don't burn them out. That makes sense. Huh. There you go. We just learnt something together. But yeah, so this ambulance, if it's here, you'll see it shortly. Like, when I say shortly, I mean it's on this road, but probably about 2 or 3 minutes ahead. And it's because, here we go, it'll be around this corner. Yeah, I think this is the one. But the reason why it happened was, some lady on a scooter, like a Vespa or something equivalent, got hit by a bus, and my colleague at work, she told the story today, and it was her that sort of pulled over to help, but there we go, ambulance. All right. Holy crap. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was Thursday then. That must have been on the way back though, because I think it happened earlier, so they must have picked up the person and then were bringing them to the ambulance. But the original response time, I was told, was only 3 minutes, she said. So I think in other parts of the world, when there's an ambulance going past, the traffic stops, which is actually the best way to do it from what I hear. But in Australia, generally speaking, you just pull over to the left and let the ambulance pass. You normally just slow down a little bit so they can go past you, but the traffic generally doesn't stop. I think they need to change that. They should change the law, particularly in urban areas where traffic gets busy. It would make sense for everyone to just freeze while the ambulance navigates a path. I might have to check when I made this, when I recorded this one. Yeah, the poor woman, she got injured pretty badly from what I understood. She wasn't wearing proper protective gear either, which is, I guess, a lesson to anyone that rides on a scooter. There's a lot of people that seem to think that if they're on a scooter, they've got an invisible force field around them. And sorry, that's just not the case. It's the same as being on a motorbike. So please, wear full gear, wear a full face helmet, wear, a jacket, jeans or leathers with knee pads, elbow pads, etc. Like if you fall, you're going to get scratched up badly if you don't have this stuff. Like I've got a friend that's fallen off his bike a few times at relatively high speed. Like, let's say at least 50 kilometers per hour. And he's been fine. No injuries at all. But, if he didn't have his gear on, he'd be cut up pretty bad. But there is a thrill in riding. I mean, there's this sense of freedom that you just don't get with any other vehicle. It's almost like flying in a way, except you're attached to the ground, but it still feels like flying. So all those clicking sounds you hear, that's gear changing. When I'm changing down gears, I pull the clutch in. When I'm slowing to a stop and I change down, I usually wait. I usually start braking and then just gear down all the way. There's no right or wrong way to do it when you're slowing down. But you generally want to use the engine, like the gearing in the engine, to help slow you down a bit. But then as you approach, it's okay to just lift it completely and gear down all the way, which is basically what I do. But yeah, if you have it in a relatively high gear and you're approaching lights, then at least that helps you slow down. So I think I catch up to this car, or this van, whatever it is, station wagon. Yeah, see, I'm just cruising at the normal speed, and this guy's going slow. Must be a grandpa or something. I catch up to this one as well. I don't understand why people go in the right lane when they're going so slow. It's always befuddled me, that. And there I'm almost home now. But you don't get to see where that is. Don't exactly want stalkers. But yeah, I live in this general area somewhere. Speed humps everywhere. See, that's a lot of buffer between me and the car in front. Generally I'm a bit closer than that, but I'm trying to go the speed limit here. A lot of people they still go 60 kilometers in 50 zones. See, back in the day, there was no such thing as a 50 kilometer zone. At least, the streets weren't 50, the streets were 60. But they changed that, I think it must have been a decade ago. No, it would have been more than a decade ago. Now this particular intersection annoys people when they come across it for the first time. So check this out, look at where the lines are. So I'm on a giveaway section, and that T is where they pass through. So basically on both sides of that street, you've got a giveaway, but then the people coming from the T have right of way. It's so weird. I mean, it makes sense in a way, because this is the busier road. So it makes sense to give them the right of way. But I know it annoys people, or it frustrates them, or they're confused about it the first time they see it. Because you often get people that sort of sit there going, is it my turn to go? It just causes confusion. They should just put traffic lights there. And we're wrapping up shortly. Random witch's hat's probably setting a driveway, recently concreted. Guy in front doesn't know how to stay in lines. And the video is about to end. So we've got a couple of seconds. Go up the street and fang it. Fang it just means go quick. It's an Australianism. Oh, I didn't fang it. Oh well. And video end. Bye guys.